One of the highlights of my year is always the Frankfurt Book Fair. I've been able to attend for 5 or 6 years, and when I do, I often think of a letter that Johannes Froben wrote to Martin Luther. It was 1519, I believe, saying that it was at the Frankfurt Book Fair that an associate of his had discovered Luther's writings and that Froben planned to print them. I think the number was 600 copies to be made available for sale in France and in Spain. Froben writes that the Sorbonne would read these documents, that they would be well received, and that he was certain to sell out of the printing. I always think of that as a publisher each time I come to Frankfurt.
Well, Froben was actually right on a couple of counts. It was read at the Sorbonne, probably read in Spain and Italy, as well as throughout Germany and England and France. It was, in fact, the first collected works of a living author in the, at that time, rather short history of printing. It's a very interesting production because, for really two reasons, I think. First of all, because it made Erasmus very angry, because he thought he should be more famous than Luther, and he hadn't had a collected works published yet. It was also a fairly short-lived project, because in 1520, with the condemnation of the Pope and the Emperor, it was not only Luther who was about to be burned, but books too, sometimes before they were sold, and there was no market then for Luther's works.
Interesting. There was another document from roughly the same time, Luther's Sermon on Indulgences and Grace, which was was an early bestseller actually in the time. I've read that there were dozens of printings, often 1,000 print copies or more, that were read far and wide throughout the empire.
Yeah, this work is really a very important part of the whole story. We concentrate on the 95 Theses, which were published in Latin, distributed widely. And I said for a long time the printers really caused a media revolution because they recognized a market for what Luther had to say about this burning issue really of indulgences and the theology and the pastoral care involved in it. I've kind of changed my mind. The printers saw that the 95 Theses would sell. The real surprise, the real miracle, is that this Augustinian friar from Wittenberg recognized the potential of the printing press. No one else had been able to mount a wide-scale campaign for any movement, reform or otherwise. Luther recognized that what had happened with the 95 Theses in Latin could happen if he would address the German people. And when he wrote on indulgences and grace, just a few weeks after the 95 Theses had spread across Germany and really into all of Western Europe, Luther was savvy enough to recognize the potential for getting his ideas across. And human communication has never been the same since.